What's up, y'all? Alvin here, and today is Question and Answer Friday. We're going to talk about that crazy banana thing.
I tell the good jokes.
All right, so yes, we're going to talk about the banana thing, but we'll save that for later, so make sure you stick around. Anyway, I just put out a message on Instagram yesterday and asked for some questions. We haven't done a question and answer in forever. Got a few questions, and so let's get into it. First up is Derek from Derek's River Adventures, and he wants to know why he hasn't seen me on the Lower Colorado River lately. If you guys don't know, the Lower Colorado River is the Colorado River downstream of Austin, where it becomes a river after a series of lakes, and there's 300 miles of flowing river, and we fish about the first 100 miles or so. And if it's a busy day, there may be like 10 boats on that 100 miles of river. So Derek, the reason you haven't seen me is we've been on different parts of the river. I was probably 40 miles downstream of you the other day. So I'm out there. I'll see you. All right. Next question is from Cave Diving Fee. I'm not sure if I got that right. And the question is, do you ever take hot food on a boat trip? And if so, how do you separate the cooler lunchbox, hot stuff versus cold stuff? So for the most part, I don't really take hot stuff on the boat with me. Most of the time when I'm on the boat, it's pretty mild weather. If it's cold enough for something hot, then I may have a thermos full of hot coffee. You know, occasionally I have taken some hot soup on the boat, and that's a nice thing about all this Yeti stuff that I use. You can just put hot coffee or soup or whatever in a bottle, and you don't have to put it in anything. So if I have drinks that I don't want hot or sandwiches or something, put them in the cooler in the ice, and the other stuff I can leave out. The other thing is on my jet boat, I actually have two coolers, and one cooler is dry storage. A lot of times that's for things that we don't want to get wet, but it's also a good place to put stuff that doesn't have to be cold. So that's how I deal with the hot stuff versus the cool stuff, is multiple coolers. All right. Okay, so next question is from Sandy Pitton. Sandy, you know who you are. Anyway, the question is, how much do Texas solar panels cost? And he said, is there a better venue to ask? He says, I'm a multi-talented guy. Thanks, Sandy. I try. I like a lot of different stuff. I don't know if I'm talented at all of it. But yeah, I want to say it was about 20 grand to put the solar panels on the roof of our house. And we got 30 something panels. I'm not 100% sure how much power we're making, but we don't have a battery storage system, so we're just making power during the day and pulling off the grid at night. Here in the spring, we're making more power than we're using, so so far so good. It's a pretty good deal. Kind of funky the way the city of Austin does the energy buyback, but so far so good. I think it's a good investment. You know, cost about as much as a beater car, and will definitely last a lot longer. And beater cars you're putting money into, and the solar panels you're getting some money out of. So we're happy about it so far. All right, who's next? Let's go over. I'm trying a little bit different thing here today. Normally I would just go to the trouble of actually copying the comments and having them all right here nice and neat, but I'm being lazy today. I'm just reading them off my phone. I hope y'all don't mind. Okay, so this question is from J.B. Walden, and the question is, how do you decide what the first fly you're going to cast will be? How many times will you cast it before swapping out? Let's say during a normal spring/summer conditions for floating and sinking lines. So I am either stubborn or I'm pretty convinced that what I'm putting on initially is going to work. So during the spring and the summer, especially earlier in the day or later in the day in the summer, and all day during the spring, bass fishing, I'm going to start with a popper, and I will probably stick with the popper for a long time, whether I get a fish or not. And then the same thing in the winter, you know, although you didn't ask about winter, you did ask about fishing with sinking lines, sinking tip lines, and we typically only fish with the sinking tip lines around here during the winter. And typically then I'm going to put on, a crawfish pattern or a clouser or something, or, one of my leechy, wormy looking things, and leave it on there for a while. I really do think that if you fish a body of water for a while, you're going to figure out a handful of flies that are going to work most of the time. And that's been my experience on my local waters, or the waters I fish a lot. It really isn't so much about changing flies a lot. That is the case in some circumstances, but not the stuff I'm fishing, bass fishing, redfish fishing. A lot of times it's just a matter of finding the fish, or sometimes just waiting until the fish start eating, so you can be on a flat and be seeing fish and, changing flies, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden things turn on and the fish just start eating the fly you have on. And I've actually tried this out, like I've fished with a bunch of different flies, and then all of a sudden I catch a fish on a particular fly. I'll try that fly for a while. If I catch a couple more fish, I'll change flies to see if it's actually the fly or if it's just the conditions have changed, whatever it may be, barometric pressure, water temperature. And more often than not, if the fish are eating, I can catch them on multiple flies. Now that's not always the case, but I don't fish on, highly pressured waters. I don't fish on tail waters where the trout are super picky. I fish a lot of times for wild fish, redfish, bass, or trout in some remote location, so they're not nearly as picky. So I don't typically change flies very often. Now, one of the things I remember from when I was first started guiding in Vail, I worked at an Orvis shop, and after the trip, they sent the clients a questionnaire, and in exchange for filling out the questionnaire, they'd get like $20 off their next purchase or something. And I remember the two biggest complaints that clients had about the guides was either the guide didn't take them to enough spots, or the guide didn't change flies often enough. So I know I have done this, and I know other guides have. Sometimes we'll just change the flies just to, just so that we're covering all our bases, so that we make our client feel like we're working to make it happen, when even though in the back of my mind, most of the time I'm like, well, I'm going to change this fly. It's probably not going to make any difference, but if it does, I'll be happy. So that's my theory on changing flies. Thanks for the question. Okay, so Northwest Fly Works. This is a good question. How often should the average fly angler on the water 2 or 3 times a week clean their fly line? What should they use for cleaning and dressing? I have heard soaking with water with Dawn dish soap and dressing with silicone spray. So I'm going to say that most people, me included, never clean their fly lines enough, if at all, and it will definitely make the fly lines last longer. Now, I fish a lot, and I go through fly lines, and I don't know how much difference. I know it would make a difference, but I don't know how much difference it would make for me personally. But I know that the coating of the fly line will last longer if you condition it and you treat it. And there's all kinds of different coatings, and so I would typically just go with whatever the manufacturer says is the best way. I've heard people using Armor All. I've heard the dish soap thing like you've heard. I've heard all kinds of things. And the thing is the coating is plastic, so different types of plastics will have different reactions to different types of chemicals. So I'm going to say the best thing is to read whatever the manufacturer says to do with their particular fly line and do that. I'm not going to tell you what I think you should do, because if you ruin your fly line, I don't want you blaming me. All right. Thanks for the question. Okay, so I was wanting this to be a quick video, so we're going to go ahead and get this over with, and we're going to answer the banana question. So let me find the actual question here real quick, and I will tell you what I think about it. All right, so This question is from Aussie Summer. And the question is, okay, newbie here, only 3 years into fly fishing and still so much to learn, but loving it. Don't understand some of the things I hear. What's the deal about no bananas on the boat? All right, I'm just going to go out on a limb right here and say it. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. It's not a joke. Actually, some people really take it seriously, but it is just an old superstition. If you Google it, you'll hear all kinds of reasons why. You know, back in the days, there'd be a shipwreck, and the only thing that was left of the ship was a bunch of bananas that were floating on the surface, and you know, therefore the bananas somehow had something to do with the ship sinking, or you know, bananas came from the tropics, and then when they'd unload them, there'd be snakes and spiders and all that kind of stuff. You know, they'd be out on the sea, and people are getting stung by poisonous spiders, and they didn't have medicine, and they didn't know what to do. Things that are, you know, kind of true is, you know, bananas and a lot of other fruits will give off a gas, ethane gas, which will do a couple things. Make other foods spoil, other fruits and vegetables spoil if they're stored near bananas that start to spoil. So, you know, it was bad luck because the bananas would ruin all the food on the boat, and then, you know, the poor sailors have nothing to eat, and they're all starving to death in the middle of the ocean because the bananas ruin their food. There are actually stories of ships catching fire because of the ethane gas and the fermenting process of the bananas, and it causes a gas. The ship catches on fire. They don't have any fire control systems on these old wooden boats. The boat burns down and everybody dies, or they're out on a rubber raft in the middle of the ocean with nothing to eat, and you know, then they starve to death. So there's a lot of old kind of stories in the past about why bananas may have been a bad thing to have on your boat, but they have absolutely no bearing on anything we're doing now in reality. Now, you know, I don't eat bananas all the time, but if I was going to have a banana for breakfast or lunch or whatever, I would not hesitate to bring it on the boat with me. I've had people bring bananas on the boat, and you know, we laugh about the banana thing, and they're eating bananas and catching fish with the other hand. So yeah, you know, I like to be controversial, and I'm just going to go ahead and say the banana thing is total BS. All right, y'all. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this type of stuff, you know, give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Sign up for my email list. There's links to all that stuff in the description. I really enjoy making these videos, and if you want to encourage me to make more, help me out with this whole process, you can join the channel. I do have channel memberships, and I answer these questions, just random questions, for free. But if you do have a specific question about anything that I may be able to help you with, you can book me for a one-on-one Zoom call for an hour. It ain't free, but I tell you what, I will tell you everything that I know. There's also a link to that in the description. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully, I will see you in the next video. And in the meantime, good luck on the water.